All right, guys, let's get into some NCAA football picks today, Saturday, November 9th. I am back breaking down some more plays with the Saturday slate. We've got a couple great matchups in the SEC, a lot of battles in the SEC today. Playoff games, like atmospheres, I guess I should say, that are going to matter come playoff time. We've got a total of 6 games, 3 best player props as well, 9 plays in total. Before we get to those matchups, let's take a look at the Friday night plays. It is currently what time is it? It is 6:55 p.m. Central Time, so none of these games have started yet. We do have the Hawkeyes minus 5.5. Caleb Johnson over 126.5 rushing yards going up against UCLA. Hopefully that's a good game we can watch on a Friday night. And then we have Jack Entries over 61.5 receiving yards going up against Wake Forest. Updated leaderboards right in front of you. Been on a little bit of a slow streak over the last 7 days, but we have a full slate of college football on Saturday to get us back on track. And we are going to be starting with one of the biggest games of the day, looking at Ole Miss going up against Georgia. I think the dogs are going to be barking today, but not for Georgia. I'm going to be taking a lot of dogs this afternoon. It's going to start with taking Mississippi on the money line as the play. The big thing in this game is that Lane Kiffin, he's playing more games with the SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey. Recently, he announced the head coaches will be suspended if they allow their players to fake injuries on the field anymore. Ole Miss, they're scumbags for doing that. I think they're the worst team in college football doing that. But that's just what the coaching staff has taught them. I'm not taking it out on the kids. Whenever they need an extra timeout or a little bit of a breather, Lane Kiffin just points at them, they go to the ground. I think it's the worst thing they do in college football. Glad people are getting suspended, but now Lane Kiffin has a little something to say. He's got 26 players on the injury report for this game against Georgia. Most of them are healthy, probably going to play in this game. The big one that we need to make sure is going to be playing is Trey Harris. He's their standout wide receiver for Ole Miss. Didn't play in the last game, but he is very important. Even though Jackson Dart went off for 500-plus yards and 6 touchdowns against Arkansas State, we still need Trey Harris in this game. If he does not play, that's going to hurt just a little bit, but I'm still going to go with Ole Miss because Georgia, they continue to be the most confusing team in the nation. They really shouldn't have beat Florida last week. They messed around with them. They've messed around with some of the worst teams in conference so far, including Mississippi State. They've really only looked good in 1 or 2 games this season against Texas and then the second half against Alabama. I guess you can count the first game against Clemson in that second half as well. So we've really only seen 2 combined games that Georgia's played good football. I don't see them all of a sudden being able to perform well again against Mississippi. Mississippi, they're playing for their lives. Jackson Dart Saturday, after that miserable loss against Kentucky a couple weeks back, he said they got to run the table. He's absolutely right. They have to win every single game. That counts Georgia. Over the last 2 games after he said that, blowout win against Arkansas. Carson Beck, he hasn't looked great over the last couple games, making a lot of mistakes. I think Mississippi can take this one. Give me them on the money line as the play. For the next play today, we're going to be looking at a Big 12 matchup. Colorado going up against Texas Tech. A couple teams on the Big 12 that have a decent shot at a conference title. Maybe not as much Texas Tech. They need a lot of help from Kansas State and Iowa State, but Colorado, they are right in the mix here. This is going to be an important game for Colorado because BYU's at the very top. We're going to talk about them in a little bit, but Colorado has kept themselves in it, and I have been very impressed with Deion Sanders. I respect them this season because they're playing football. They're not talking a lot. Again, Shedeur Sanders, he's having a lights-out year. Hand up on this. I walked it back a couple weeks ago. I said Sanders wasn't a great quarterback. I think he's playing incredible this season. Over the last couple games, he's been the reason why Colorado's been having this winning streak. The defense is playing a little bit better. The offense, they're scoring in bunches. That defense, they have been better this season. They were horrible last season. They don't have to play great this season because Sanders has them scoring 30-plus points per game, but I like Colorado in this spot. They've got the Heisman Trophy, hopefully winner on their team as well, playing both sides of the ball. Colorado in this spot on the road. I think a lot of people are going to take the points to Texas Tech. I'm going to be on the Buffs here. On the road, -4 as the second play. And for the final play, looking at another massive game, Alabama going up against LSU. There are very few teams that go into Death Valley and come out with a win at night on a Saturday in the top 25 matchups. And I do want to say for everybody that didn't like the 12-man playoff setup, this is the reason they have it. We have 2 teams that benefit from this playoff now that it's 12 mans because both of these teams, they deserve a shot at the national title. Both these teams are fantastic. They have 2 losses this season, both of them. Alabama has 2 losses. LSU has 2 losses. This is a game last season that wouldn't have mattered at all because neither of these teams could have made it. Now both of these teams can make it. Winner has a very good chance to go to the playoffs if they take care of business after this game. Loser goes home. I'm going to go with the dog again. LSU on the money line. It's going to be Garrett Nussmeier game. to prove that he's a good quarterback. He's coming off of a tough game against Texas A&M. He did throw for over 400 yards. That's great, but he had 3 turnovers. That's unacceptable. You cannot turn the ball over, especially in SEC play. Every possession is critical, and that's going to be critical in this game. You got to be able to hold on to the ball. The winner of this game is most likely going to be the quarterback who has the ball last. Alabama defensively, they have had their problems this season. LSU defensively, they've had their problems this season. And like I said, this game's going to be one on which quarterback can outperform the other. I do love myself Jalen Miller. He's one of the best dual-threat quarterbacks in the nation. And if you take a look at LSU, they have struggled a little bit going up against dual-threat quarterbacks. I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of people are going to be backing Alabama in this game, because LSU, they did struggle a little bit against South Carolina, and they struggled a little bit against Texas A&M when they went to the backup quarterback who's a dual threat. The only reason I'm going with LSU is because I believe in Garrett Nussmeier, and the atmosphere in Death Valley is going to be electric. I don't want the points. I want the Tigers. Give me them on the money line as the final play. Let's go over to some player props for tomorrow. For the first player prop, we're going to be looking at Iowa State going up against Kansas. I took this guy last week going up against Texas Tech. He did most of the damage in the second half, but the player prop was never a doubt. I'm going to go back to him in this game going up against the Kansas Jayhawks. They have been very poor defensively this season. The numbers on the sheet looking right at you, 397.6. That feels like it's actually a little bit better than what I thought. I mean, if you've watched the Kansas Jayhawks play this season, they've been horrible, especially in the fourth quarter. They turned double-digit leads in the fourth quarter to outright losses. The current spread for this game, I believe it's minus 2.5 in favor of Iowa State, and I took them last week. It didn't work out, but this week, this team is going to dominate Kansas. Rocco has been one of the best arms in the Big 12 all season long. He's right behind Sanders, but he's been leading this Iowa team all season. He had a 300-yard game last week going up against Texas Tech. He would have had a game-winning drive, but he just left a little bit too much time on the clock for Texas Tech. He's going to be slinging the ball around the field in this game as Iowa State gets some frustration out on a pretty bad Kansas team this week. I'm going to take his over 252.5 passing as the first play. For the second play, I've already talked about him a little bit. We're going to take Garrett Nussmeier of LSU to go over 287.5 passing against Alabama. This number is actually a little bit lower than I thought it was going to be, and I know that you're expecting some weather in this game, but I just don't know if it's going to make that big of an impact. It is a hurricane, Hurricane Raphael, that's projected to potentially make impact in this game. I'm seeing a 50-50 chance right now for some scattered showers. If it does rain, might put a little bit of a damper on things, but it also might not impact this game at all. And Garrett Nussmeier at home, you got to take this number. He's had over 300 passing yards in every single game at home. He's pushing for 3,000 yards already on the season. He's going to get it in this game. He needs 363 more yards. He's got 20 touchdowns. I think he gets to 363 in this game. In the last game against Texas A&M, 405 yards. But like I said, 3 turnovers. I'm going to take him in this game to have a bounce-back performance. All the pressure is on his shoulders right now. If you want to be an NFL quarterback, if you want to be looked at as a Joe Burrow-like guy at LSU, you got to find a way to win this football game. The entire season is on this game right now. Doesn't matter the past. 1 loss with this game at home. The season's over. 1 win, you're looking at a playoff berth. Give me the over. 287.5 passing yards as the play. I think he's ready for the moment and for the final play today. We're going to be looking at Georgia going up against Ole Miss. We're going to go with the running back for Georgia, Trevor Etienne, to go over 75.5 rushing yards. This is just going to be a play that I think Georgia's not going to be able to trust Carson Beck a ton in this spot after the game he had against Florida. If Georgia wanted to, they could hand the ball off every single time, get themselves 3 or 4 yards most likely per carry. And it's going to be a little bit harder in this game for them going up against one of the best rushing defenses in the country in Ole Miss. Georgia, they couldn't get anything going last week going up against Florida. They were playing from down in that game in the first half. And DJ Lagway, if he didn't go down, I really think Georgia might have lost that game outright. But they abandoned the run game completely. Playing from down, they really shouldn't have done that because Carson Beck, he didn't look his best. He didn't really play very well until the fourth quarter. This is a team who can play dominant football up front. And at the beginning of the season, Trevor Etienne, he was suspended, but this was supposed to be one of the best running backs in the country. I still think the talent is there. I think Georgia relies on the run game a little bit more in this one. Give me the over 75.5 as the play. Let's go over to some more plays. We got 3 more plays to talk about. Going to be quick on these. We have a Big 12 matchup. BYU going up against Utah. Very dangerous spot for BYU. I have gone against them a couple times this season whenever they were in tough spots like this. They have answered the bell every time they've had a tough spot. This is another one at Utah at night. Utah historically over the last several seasons at home, they don't lose. But BYU, like I said, every time they're tested, they find a way to win. This is not the same Utah team. They have not looked good this season. The defense has been the only thing good for them all season long. They can't move the ball. I think BYU finds a way. Minus 2.5. They keep the season alive as a perfect 9-0 going into next week. For the next play, we're going to be looking at Washington going up against Penn State. I don't care about anything or anybody in this game. I don't care about the players. I don't care about the fans. The University of Penn State, they're coming off an embarrassing performance against Ohio State, again, against the top 5 team. No offensive touchdowns. They're laying 13.5 points. I'm about to tell you guys something that might sound really dumb, but I'm pretty sure it works. It's a system. It's not my system. I'm sure a lot of people do this, but whenever you see a team that is being gifted the hook, it's probably smart to take the opposite side every time. There are very rare occasions that you can either buy the hook, like I did with the BYU game, or you have emotional spots, like I'm going to talk about in a little bit. But if you have a random game and you've watched both teams and the line doesn't make a whole lot of sense, take the side that isn't getting the hook. For example, Bengals on Thursday Night Football. They were plus 6.5. A lot of people had the Ravens minus 6.5 because they're the better team. All they got to do is win by touchdowns. Bengal, I mean, they really should have won that game outright, but the spread was never really in doubt. Same in this game. Washington on the road. Penn State off of a bad loss. Should be Penn State minus 13.5. They're getting gifted the hook. Not so fast. It could be Washington plus 13.5. I think Washington's a good football team. For the last play of the day, emotional spot here. Kansas going up against Iowa State. This is a game I said Kansas plus 2.5. The system, that's the one you should take. Everybody's going to be taking Iowa State minus 2.5. The smart play would be take Kansas here plus 2.5 for the system. But the system cannot comprehend emotion. Computers don't have that capability yet. Iowa State's coming off a very bad loss against Texas Tech. They should have won that game. They played their worst game of the season, but this is a team who is still playing for a Big 12 title, and Kansas is now eliminated from making a bowl appearance. This is going to be an ass-kicking. This is going to be one of the worst beatdowns that Kansas had on their home field over the last 3 seasons. I love Lance Leipold. He's basically saved the program of Kansas football over the last couple years, but we're going to see a very pissed off Iowa State team. They're going to put up 35, 45 plus points on this Kansas defense, and the defense for Iowa State, they're going to have a bounce back performance as well. Give me the Cyclones here, minus 2.5 as the final play of the day. So let's take a look at all the recap plays. Ole Miss, moneyline. Colorado, minus 4. LSU, moneyline. Dogs are barking. Besides that Texas Tech game, I know a lot of people are going to take Texas Tech minus 4. I don't know. Colorado, you're just playing some good football right now. Tech's still playing good football right now, but I'm just going to take Colorado minus 4. BYU, minus 2.5. Another battle. They have answered the call every battle they've had. Washington, plus 13.5. And then the Cyclones, minus 2.5 is the final play for the game picks. We have Rocco Beck, over 252.5 passing yards. Garrett Nussmeier, over 287.5 passing. And then Trevor Etienne, over 75.5 rushing yards going up against Ole Miss. Guys, that's going to do it for the NCAA football plays and props for Saturday, November 9th slate of games. If you guys enjoyed the content, please sure to drop a like on this video and subscribe to the channel below. See you guys next video, and thanks for watching.